street. So you realize America doesn't love you, they treat you less than human. Have more sympathy for a dog before they start shooting. Protecting their own.
What up, what up? It's your boy, Mr. Vinnie-Dangerous, and I'm here today with a quote-unquote special edition of the Dangerous Minds podcast. You know, let's go ahead and fast forward through the little introduction. You follow me on IG, Dangerous Minds, at Dangerous Minds Podcast, all one word, on IG. You can follow me there. We can, come in, have discussion posts all the time, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's get on it. So, I decided to go ahead and do this episode on a Thursday. I'm coming to you on a Thursday because I felt that this situation was way too important and it was weighing a little too heavy on my head and in my heart for me to wait until Sunday. So, unless you've been under a rock, you would have known that amongst all the other news, today is the first of fall. There's been a mini gas crisis here on the East Coast and in the South. And for whatever reason, Meek Mill and the Game decided to pop up out of nowhere and started beef with each other. Beyond that, though, 2 more names have been added to the mile-long list of unarmed African-American people that have been gunned down and their lives cut short by men and women that are supposed to protect and serve as police officers. Now, when I first got the news of all of this going on, I honestly was at a loss for words because I've seen this story so many times. We've all seen this story so many times. We know how it plays out from beginning, middle to end. The story has not changed since it first started getting television coverage. Even before camera phones, before we had Twitter and all these other social media outlets to where we can get this information out in the blink of an eye. This kind of thing has been going on. And the same narrative each time is played out. Someone unarmed is gunned down. A cop receives paid administrative leave as the police department investigates the situation. They may or may not get indicted. There's outrage in the community of which it happened. There are protests, both peaceful and non-peaceful. The court date happens, if there ever is one. They are acquitted of all charges. The end. Rinse, recycle, repeat. So I didn't really know what to say that hasn't already been said. There's outrage. There's sadness. There's disappointment. There's anger. And then there's people that just don't care. There's some people like myself that have pretty much been numb to the situation. I am a normal man. I'm 23 years old, and I am a college graduate with a bachelor's degree in business administration. I work a regular 9-to-5 job from Monday through Friday. My real passion is music. I'm a writer, I'm a producer, and I'm a performer. I do hip-hop music. But I'm a regular person, just like everybody. And I say that to say this. I don't really know what we need to do at this point. I'm completely lost amongst the tragedies. The 2 men that were taken out the most recent ones. One happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A man, car stalled on I think it was the highway, the freeway. I really didn't take any notes for this episode. I kind of just said I would go ahead and freestyle it. And his car was stalled on the side of the road. He needed help. Police officers arrived on the scene. You can see in the footage that he clearly had his hands up in a non-threatening fashion. One officer decides to tase him, and the officer that committed the murder gunned him down. There's two different versions of the footage. There's the dash cam that was in the police car, and there is the footage from a police helicopter that was flying above the scene. And in the helicopter, you can hear one of the police officers that were in the helicopter calling the man a bad dude. Now, from the footage, I'm assuming was from the distance. Like, we could see what they could see. And from where he was and where the footage was, the only thing you could see was this man's hands up. He was a little bit of a heavy-set guy, and he was black. But there was nothing about that footage that indicated that he was a bad dude. He moved back and forth with his hands up, but he wasn't moving erratically. He wasn't moving in a way that would give you any type of assumption that he was on something. Like they've been accusing him, or, they believed that he was on something. He was on PCP is what they're trying to say. Let's see what happens when the autopsy comes out, and see if there were any drugs in his system at all, let alone PCP. Another African American man, another father, another brother, another son taken out. And my first reaction was I just sat there. I just kind of stared at the wall for a little bit. And I really didn't know what to say. Like, at the moment, I didn't know how to say it. Do I do a podcast like I'm doing now? Do I write another song? A song I wrote 2 years ago. I made a snippet for the beginning of this episode. When, in the wake of the deaths of Mike Brown and John Crawford. Or do I just make another post on Facebook? And at that moment, I realized that I am sort of helpless in the situation. And as I'm processing this, news breaks of another man taken out. And this one's a little bit closer to me than Tulsa, Oklahoma. This actually happened right here in the state of North Carolina, where I am from and currently resides. A man was killed in Charlotte, North Carolina. Police officers cornered him, serving a warrant to another man that was not the person that they ended up gunning down. He was told to get out of his car, where witnesses are saying that he had a book in his hand. Police officers saying that he had a gun in his hand. And they shot him. And I did make a post on Facebook. I said that I can name mass shooters and terrorists that have been taken into custody, but unarmed black men and women have been gunned down. You have no excuse. One of the things about the woman from Tulsa, Oklahoma, is that they like to throw around is that she made a mistake. She had a lapse in judgment, or she was frightened. She choked up, like how Donald Trump liked to phrase it. And to that I say this. I don't see police officers choking up when they corner a terrorist or they corner a mass shooter like the man who shot all those people in the church in South Carolina, who was treated so very well to the point where he was hungry, so they took him by Burger King after committing the heinous crimes that he committed, they take him by Burger King and feed him. But these people who were suspected of being something that they all turned out not to be, having weapons that they did not have, are gunned down before you could even question them. Tamir Rice, one of the worst examples, because you didn't even there was no possible way you took any time to question anything or investigate the way I would believe a police officer has been trained to do. He was killed within seconds of police officers arriving on the scene. And you expect me to believe that was an accident. Freddie Gray's spine was severed because of how he was bumped around in the back of a police van. And you want to look at me, you want to look at the family of Freddie Gray. You want to look at the families of Tamir Rice and Eric Garner and John Crawford and Mike Brown, and the list goes on. Sandra Bland. And you want to put your arms up and say, oops. At this point, I believe that every officer who would even be thought of to make a mistake like this should be fired. Like, if you even give me any type of suspicion that you're that kind of coward, you should just be fired. I don't think you deserve your job. I don't think we need people like you on the street. If you were that little punk that got picked on in high school and now you think you're big and bad because you're wielding a gun, fire him. Point blank, period. And I read an article today on theroot.com. If you want black news and you want it unfiltered without all the bullshit, because a lot of the people you see on television, from the MSNBCs to the BETs, when they report news, they still have to report it a certain way because they still have sponsors and corporations that fund their television program that they have to answer to. So regardless of how liberal they try to make themselves out to be, they still have to filter it through and get the approval of corporate fascists. So if you want news like I do, raw and uncut without all the bullshit there to try to fluff it out, I would suggest somewhere like theroot.com. But I read this article today, and it was about the notion of, are there still good cops, and saying that there's no good cops. And I actually agree with that 100%. Because even if you're not the police officer that pulled the trigger, you know it happened. You may have not been there on the scene when that happened, but the police officers have a coat of arms. They have a brotherhood that, no matter what happens, I'm going to protect my brother in this uniform and behind this badge, which in any other circumstance would be admirable, except for the track record the police officers hold. And it's not just crimes against black people. It's, extortion. The fact that you could have evidence of thousands and millions of dollars that go up missing because of who was the officer that got to the scene first. And if you keep quiet, I'll split it with you. There's been cases of police officers raping, criminals, raping criminal women. And, you're the police officer, you're the man in the uniform, and, she's some quote-unquote lowlife. And they get away with it. So it just makes me wonder, are there any good cops? Because they know. You know the truth, and you know what happened, and you stood there silent. And that's one of the things that bothers me. The silence. The silence of the police officers. They claim that there are good cops out there, but won't speak up on the ones that are doing bad. If you really are behind that badge, and you're really in that uniform, and you're in that patrol car, and you join force to protect and serve, I just want to ask you a question. Who are you protecting? Because if you're not going to protect the people that you're supposed to be serving, if you're not going to protect them from the people that are beside you, that are possibly the worst criminals that you'll ever come across, are the ones wearing the exact same uniform and swearing the same oath and carrying the same badge that you are. Tell me, who exactly are you protecting? You protecting them? You protecting your job, yourself? Or are you protecting the people that you swore up and down that you were going to serve? So until those people come out, and there have been a very small case, but a few. There have been a few people that have come out and they have lost their jobs. I read about a police officer that was fired because he refused to kill an unarmed, presumably black person. He was fired for disobeying orders because he was ordered to take somebody out. And that right there just lets me know that you can't come at me with this bullshit about it being an accident. You can't tell me that what happened was a coincidence. You can't tell me what happened was a lapse in judgment. Because first of all, you're supposed to be a trained officer. Like I said, you're trained to where you can have a shootout with the guy that just blew up half of New York City. And it was multiple cops shooting at this man, and they still was able to maim him enough to take him down, but still keep him alive to take him into custody. But somebody that you think has a gun and has a book, the first reaction you have is to shoot. It's not an accident. You're out here hunting me. You're hunting us. You're taking us out because that's what you were trained to do. That's just the part of your job that isn't glorified on television, isn't in those propaganda shots that you put all over Facebook. And let me tell you one thing, people. When you look on your Facebook, pay attention to your timeline for the next couple of weeks, because I promise you, it always happens. Like I said, the story never changes. Doesn't even get edited, even a little bit. There are going to be all these videos and all of these pictures and propaganda that's going to be thrown all over your websites, all over television. It's going to be of all these police officers that are going to be playing with these little kids. They're going to be playing with these little black kids. Are going to be hanging out at the schools or buying gifts for no fucking reason. Are they going to be wanting to play basketball? You might even see every once in a while, because, Twitter real X-rated, you might see a cop fucking with some black girls out of nowhere. These videos seem to pop up at real good time. Have real perfect timing. Because every time they pop up, it's always after somebody's been gunned down. Because you're trying to force that notion that there's good cops. Well, I'm sorry. I don't really think that the cops are going to be looking at me trying to give me an ice cream bar. They're going to be ready to put a bullet in my fucking head. Because that's how I perceive police officers now. Because every time you try to tell me that if I do something different, if I act a little different, if I'm presented a certain way, that I won't get taken out like everybody else. And earlier in this episode, I said that I don't have the answers. I'm a normal man. And one thing that I think is more poisonous than a lot of things that have been going around as far as speech, right? Because the bigots, I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about the bigots. Because guess what? They believe what they believe because that's who they are. It's embedded in their DNA at this point. It's been part of who they are. They was born this way. At this point, because it's been so deep rooted in themselves. I mean, if this is something you've been taught since you were like 3 or 4 years old and you're like 50, 55 at this point, maybe even a little younger, but still it's too late now for them. They believe what they believe. I mean, some college in North Dakota, they just posted like some white girls locked some black girl out of their dorm and they said, we locked the black bitch out. Or I see the girls that was on Snapchat painting their faces black, and they talking about, I finally get to be a nigger now, And I think it's all hopeless for those motherfuckers. Because they see our pain and they see it as a joke. Don't fuck with them. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want anybody to talk to them. I don't want you to get up on Fox News and an NAACP member, or you see the family of the victims, and you see them on there, and they're trying to convince the audience of this television, of the people that watch the television network, and they're trying to convince them that, hey, what these people are talking are bullshit. You get up there and you get, because they're going to say some shit that's going to piss you off. So then you're going to get up there and you're going to get all riled up, and you're going to, quote unquote, put them in their place. You get a viral Twitter or YouTube video or whatever. That little clip goes up there, and people see it and they're like, oh man, that's what's up. And guess what? The people that you were trying to reach, the people you reached, they already know. You're preaching to the choir. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to get up here like this in the first place. But at the end of the day, it has to be said. You're preaching to the choir, because everybody that's listening to the sound of my voice, just like the people that get up on Fox News and they get their viral video up there, guess what? The people already know. The people you're talking about, you're the one you're talking to already know. The ones that are listening already know. The ones you are talking to are the ones that it goes right over their head because they believe what they believe. So you got up there, you got riled up, you put them in their place, quote unquote, and guess what they do? They get up on the same television station of another episode of the same show that you were just on the very next day or the next week or whatever, and they do damage control. They use you as an example to prove what's wrong with Black Lives Matter. Or they say that this is exactly why you get gunned down, because you don't know how to fucking act. And I hate to say it like that, but it's true. You're going up there and you're wasting your time. You're wasting valuable time. Because like I said, I don't have the answer. But I don't want people up here pretending like they have the answer. Don't tell me if I act a certain way or dress a certain way that it might not happen to me. Because guess what? Everybody's getting it. It doesn't matter if it's man, woman, young, old. I got a wife beater with saggy pants, so I'm wearing a suit. They gunning for everybody. At the end of the day, that's not going to work. I just want nobody, because I see the people rioting. And as much as I may not agree with the tactics, I'm not going to tell you how to feel and how not to react. Because you've seen everything else and you've seen it not work. You've seen people peacefully protest and all they get met with was tear gas and pepper spray and arrests. I heard about not too long ago, one of the Ferguson protesters, one of the leaders in the Ferguson movement, was found dead in a burning car. So we could check that off the list. The peaceful protest does not work. I mean, I hate to say it, but the marches do not work without any type of, structure. You just can't go out there with picket signs and think that that's going to make that much of a difference. It gets you media coverage, but it doesn't get a conviction. We've already established that these people, all right, now we got media coverage. Now these people know what's going on. Now what do we do? So what is the next step in the plan? Because we can't keep doing the same thing. It's the same story every time. It doesn't get edited. We go out there, we march, we hold up signs, and then you go on feeling good about yourself. If you ain't get beat up by the police and end up in jail. Because you feel like you did a difference. Well, I appreciate the gesture, and I really do love seeing our people standing together, but there's got to be something after this. There's got to be a form of action after this, or we just going to settle with the same situation over and over again. Because it's not stopping black people from getting bullets in their head. But I'm not going to tell you not to do that. I'm just saying we need to think of something else on top of that. Even in the civil rights movement, it wasn't just the marching, it was the boycotting. And that's the part that, hey, that might make a difference, but I don't have the answer when it comes to getting people to want to listen to it. Because nobody wants to get rid of those brands. They don't want to stop shopping at those stores that they're so accustomed to. Everybody was ready to march and protest during Ferguson, but when everybody told you to save your money on Black Friday, everybody laughed. They're like, nah, I got to get these gifts for Christmas. Everybody laughed and said that wasn't going to work. They're real quick to tell you what ain't going to work, but when I see you doing the same exact shit every time and it don't work, then you're looking at me, I'm looking at you like you're crazy. Like, what the fuck? That's insanity. To keep doing the exact same thing over and over again to think you're going to get a different result. I've seen what you're doing and it fails, but I come up with a suggestion and you laugh before you take part because your materialism is more important than your people. I just don't want nobody to come at me crazy about Colin Kaepernick no more. Because you all lives matter little bullshit ass motherfuckers. I want you to speak up because your silence right now is funny. All lives matter until black lives are in danger. Maybe that should be the new slogan. So I'm going to end this off right here before I keep saying the same thing over and over again. I don't have the answers. I'm just a normal man that's feeling the same outrage and the same pain and the same hurt that you all are feeling. And I just want everybody to know you don't have the answers either. Don't judge anybody for their feelings. But don't come at me like that's the final answer. I must have, don't get it confused. I'm bragging on it, the protesting and everything. But I'm only saying what I'm saying because I don't want y'all to look at me and say that's the final answer. I don't want you to believe that that's the final answer. I want you to know that you got to put something else on it. You got to put something else on it. It's not what you're doing, it's what you're doing after the fact is what I'm really concerned about. Because like I said, I don't have the answers. You don't have the answer. But I do know enough is enough. I'm not even going to do the regular outro. I'm just going to leave y'all with this. I love y'all. And be safe. And hopefully we don't end up on a hashtag.